So let me do this. All right. I'm going to get started here, guys. We'll go over questions at the end. So this is for the fat shredder. That's going to be again on Monday. Going to go over fasting, the panda diet, and all things of that nature. Take no more than 30 minutes of your time. So let me give you the background on how I came to this. So back in, if you see that picture of me in the hospital bed, that was in 2012. 2012, I was playing in the men's basketball league. I was still teaching at the time. It was a late night game. I was sprinting down the court, and that was my left leg at the time. The patellar tendon just exploded into 4 pieces. A bunch of other ligaments, the IT band, and whatnot. Really bad injury. Learned a lot throughout that process. But anyhow, that was kind of the basis for me wanting to do another bodybuilding show. At that point, I had not competed since 2008. Devin, as many of you know, my wife, she had never seen me compete before. So I kind of said, all right, I want Devin to see me compete, and I also want to fully come back from this injury. And I was going to kind of use the concept of competing in a bodybuilding show to put that behind me. So fast forward to 2014, you have the picture up here. That's one of the shows I did in 2014. I did 2 shows that year. But it was getting ready for that show when I was going through my research, about 8 weeks out, 8 weeks remaining until the contest, where researching fat loss. Like I would really always go really deep with it every time I would compete, so I would learn a tremendous amount. But I started looking at stubborn fat patterns. And for men, typically your stubborn fat is going to be your lower abs, like your belly area, your love handles, low back. For women, it's typically glutes and thighs. And that's the last area of fat that's going to get off you. And when you're getting ready for something like a bodybuilding show, you have to get that stuff off of you, right? And I wanted to be in the best shape I'd ever been in, more so because Devin was going to see me compete. So through my research, one of the only ways that you can really attack those areas is through fasting. And that is because there's 3 phases of fat loss. So those stubborn fat areas that I just mentioned, if you touch those, like if I touch my lower back, right, it's typically colder than the rest of my body, the rest of my skin. If you just touch those areas, the reason that those stubborn fat areas are colder is they have a very poor blood supply. It's a different type of receptor in there than the regular squishy fat that you can squeeze on the rest of your body. It's a different type of fat cell receptor, but the main thing is the blood supply is very, very poor. To lose fat, you have to mobilize the fat store. Okay, then you got to transport it out, move it out to where it can be used as energy by your muscles. The first part of this, the mobilization, okay, mobilizing the fat source cannot happen if you can't get adequate blood flow into those areas. So through my research, what I came across was one of the only ways, or really the only way you can increase blood flow to those areas is through fasting. Now, at the time, I had heard of fasting. I'd always kind of say, oh, it's garbage. You can't do that. You're going to lose muscle. You're going to go into starvation. But all the common myths that you guys have heard as well. But I implemented it right away, not the panda version. That was still a long ways off. But just your typical 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window. So I went from eating 4 meals at that point to 2. Same amount of food. I was tracking everything. So when you're getting ready for something that extreme, you really got to track everything and know exactly what's going on. And I noticed benefits right away. My hunger levels were much easier to handle. Digestion improved. Energy was much better. So that's how I came to implement fasting back in 2014. So since that time, it's evolved to what we now have as the panda diet, which I'll be explaining. The typical North American diet, I want to start with this because this is what most people are used to. This is what most people have been taught. You're taught to cut, whether that's calories or carbohydrates. You're taught to burn, right? So you gotta, people teach you what I like to call it, the fake fitness experts and the media will tell you, cut this, and then also try to burn X amount over here. And then we're going to have this, we're going to lose weight. And that leaves you, the person that is going through it, with the feeling of, I can't wait until this is over. Okay. That's the feeling that you will have, is, hey, I can't wait until this diet is over, which tells you that it's based in willpower. And your brain will never form a habit around anything that is purely willpower based. That's not how the brain works. So all this stuff I'm telling you is stuff I've taken into account with mind mapping, is how can we form a habit around this way of living when you're cutting and burning, right? So a couple things happen when you cut, right? The typical North American diets, and there's many of them. There's keto, there's Atkins, there's I recently heard of the New Jersey diet. There's you guys have heard them all before, and they continue to get more absurd as the years go on. But when you just drastically cut calories, and that's your main fuel source, what happens is your body will lower its metabolism to match what's being put in. Okay, it can down regulate 40%. So let's say your metabolism, basal metabolic rate, is like 1,000 calories. It's much higher than that. But it could go down to 600 calories. It can go up to it can go up to 1,400 calories. It can shift. But what happens is you cut. Now, at the same time, your main hunger hormones are going up. So metabolism's lowering, main hunger hormones are going up, and you have a disaster waiting to happen. Meaning, as soon as you go back to eating normal, and you've lowered that metabolic rate, you're going to gain weight, even if you're eating normal amounts of food. This is what happened to me my first 5 contests. I would balloon up, and I would be in a funk, and did a lot of damage to my metabolism. And when you do that over and over, it can take years for your metabolism to recover. So that's the typical North American diet. It's also based in the concept. I don't think I have a slide in here for this one, but I want to explain this briefly. You have the simultaneous model of weight loss and the sequential model of weight loss. The typical North American diet is based in the simultaneous. If I cut this and burn this, I'm going to lose weight, right? It might work initially, but it does not work ever for long-term results. Sequential is what we're doing with the fasting. And the way I'll explain this, let me see what I got next here. The way I'll explain this is, picture your fridge that's in your kitchen. Fridge is full of food. That is your daily energy source. Now, down in your basement, you also have a couple box freezers, a couple fridges down there. Those fridges, those freezers represent the stored body fat that you want to lose. Now, here's the thing. You can't earn the right to go down there and start taking food out of those freezers until the fridge up here is empty. If you're constantly eating, and I don't care how much, but if you're constantly eating, that fridge is never going to be empty. That fridge has to be broken down, and this is the sequential part, until we have to go down into the basement to start pulling out food of those freezers, also known as your body fat, to use as energy. Now, using that analogy, the food in the fridge, okay, that's your daily intake, right? If you're eating every 3-4 hours, like most people have been taught, you're never going to empty that fridge. Also, every time that fridge door opens and the light goes on, I want you to in your head, remember that it's something I'll go over a little more. Every time you open that and the light goes off, that's insulin being released. If insulin is released, that's a main storage hormone. If insulin is released, you will never lose weight. Insulin signals your body to store. It can't store and lose at the same time. So let's remember that. I told you what happens internally with the typical North American diet. Metabolic rate's going to go down. Hunger is going to continue to climb, right? When we look at fasting, you'll see that the exact opposite happens, which I'll go over in a minute. So why is this what you've been taught before I start going over the fasting? There's a huge lack of real expertise. Okay, huge. I'm talking doctors, fitness professionals, fitness influencers, huge lack of expertise. And they typically just repeat what they've been taught, right? This is what happens. They teach what they've been taught, right? It's mainly cookie cutter programs. And listen, I used to do this too. You got to constantly learn and evolve. And these so-called experts, they'll be the people that try to knock fasting, yet they've never tried it, or they've never tried any serious fasting, I should say. Puts the blame on you. So when I first started out years ago, and I would write diets for people following my bodybuilding background, okay, it would be broken down to like 5-6 meals, how much ounces of everything, how many cups of everything was measured out. First of all, that goes against habit formation. It's way too many changes at once. It's way too complex. And I would say about 1 out of every 15 of my clients would actually be able to lose weight. Okay. And what my ego would say is they're lying. There's no way they're following this. So it would take the onus off of me. It would take the pressure off of me. Well, they're just not committed. Okay. And then marketing. You guys got to think there's a couple aspects of this marketing, which I won't get too deep into in this because I've got a lot of different theories on that. But food companies, supplement companies need you to eat more often. Okay. They know how food works. It stimulates hunger. Food is a drug. Okay. They need you to consume more. I also believe with part of the marketing, the powers that be, whoever you think they are, they don't want people to be supremely healthy, right? Much of the world economy, pharmaceutical, all this stuff, if people were really truly healthy, would pretty much collapse, right? And all you got to do is go to any store or look around and just see the state of health of people around you. This is what's out there, okay? So let's go over fasting. Now, when I'm talking about fasting, if you're doing a 16-hour fast, like what I started with way back when, very minimal benefits. It's better than eating multiple times a day, but you're not really going to see much. You know, I'm just going to be truthful with you. You can dabble with that, but you're not really going to do much, right? And it's okay. Everybody's got to do what they're comfortable. But when people really want to make a change and they tell me that that's how they're starting, I kind of cringe on the inside because I know that they're just wasting time, right? So you're going to jump right to it if you choose to do this, right? It's your choice. With habits, it's always got to be your choice. So the benefits of longer type of fasting, before I go over the main protocol, reduced inflammation and insulin resistance. So those two go hand in hand. I'll talk about those first. Every disease known to man is a insulin resistance problem. So what is insulin resistance? So I told you insulin is a hormone. Insulin is a master hormone. When you eat, insulin is released, and that signals the body and the brain, okay, the food and the nutrients that just came in, let's store them somewhere. Let's store that blood sugar, that blood glucose somewhere. Now, you become insulin resistant the more often you've eaten. So if you've grown up eating, 3 times a day, plus 2 snacks or whatever, and you've been doing that for years, every time you eat, insulin is spiked. What happens over time, your body becomes resistant to the effects of insulin. Okay, it builds up an insulin resistance. So when that happens over time, your body is not going to be able to keep up, right? And this is where you become pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic. And what the doctors will do is put you on insulin, which makes the problem worse because your body already can't produce enough insulin. So you're putting in basically external insulin. Okay. And now it's pushing that blood glucose, which is toxic if it stays in your system, to places it shouldn't be, like your eyeballs and your digits. So a lot of type 2 diabetics, what happens if they don't actually get on a true fasting program and they stay on the insulin, they'll wind up going blind or having very bad eye issues, or they got to get their digits cut off. Very common for them to have their toes cut off because that blood glucose, if it's just floating out there for too long, it's very, very toxic for the body. We want you to be more insulin sensitive. Okay, and the way you do this is through longer form fasting. Dr. Jason Fung, who I've learned a lot from, he used to put people on insulin. Then he realized, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. This makes 0 sense. So now he has clinics where he pretty much reverses type 2 diabetes left and right just by different fasting programs. That's it, just fasting. And I've seen tons of blood work guys to really back up all the deeper blood work benefits of fasting in this nature. Where you're going to reduce inflammation, increase insulin sensitivity. You're going to have weight loss. To remember that fridge and freezer analogy. I've never seen anything work like this. It's not a magic pill, but the longer you do this, okay, the more the effects just compound. Okay, so I've been doing the version I'm going to show you guys for about 2 years now. And it's super simple and it just keeps working, right? Where I used to have to struggle. Like my weight now sits around 220. To give you an idea, last time I competed, I weighed 217 pounds. And I don't want, it's pretty much with non-effort, right? I'm not counting calories. I'm not obsessing over food, which is a big thing, right? Because I, like many of you, I had really issues around food, body image, all this stuff. So you're going to have weight loss, but that's really the tip of the iceberg. More energy. So your brain is going to function better, which I'll talk about here in a second too. You're going to have more energy because insulin, like think about a typical breakfast that people would normally eat. They're going to eat, right? Insulin goes up. Short while later, it comes back down. And what happens? You get sluggish and tired. You're going to have the flip side hormones, basically, which are adrenaline and cortisol and growth hormone, are going to be constantly elevated, not to a bad point, but a nice mild point. And that is going to allow the cells to produce more energy. It's going to allow the brain to function better. And just this morning, let me see here. I might actually pull up this text for you guys. This is from one of the RIP dads that is going through. So he was out fishing this morning and he always texts me his fishing pictures. He says, this fasting stuff is giving me so much more energy. I need a positive outlet. Normally I would have said no sense to only going fishing for 30 minutes, but I'm feeling so great that I went. And he just keeps telling me how much better his energy is. And energy is your number one asset. So that's a huge thing. The brain, okay, the brain, like I said, those hormones are going to affect the brain. One of the main concerns I get from people, well, I got to be able to focus at work. Your brain production will go up. It'll go through the roof, right? You're going to be much sharper. Now, food is a drug. So when you first start doing this, if you choose to do this, you might have withdrawal symptoms. You might be foggy the first couple of days. You might get a headache the first couple of days. Those are drug withdrawal symptoms. That's all it is. It's not low blood sugar. Your body has a built-in mechanism when just like when blood sugar gets too high, it releases insulin. When it gets too low, it releases another hormone called glucagon, which says, okay, don't go any lower. Okay. So you're not going to have to worry about that. Improved digestion. Hold on, guys. Let me just shut this door. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that, guys. So improved digestion. Your digestive health is a key indicator to your overall health. 80% of your immune system is stored in your gut, 80% of your neurotransmitters, okay, the second brain, that's where that term came from, are stored in your gut. We need the gut to be healthy. That comes from reducing inflammation and giving your gut a break. Okay, your gut is there to really protect your body and to give it the nutrients it needs. If it's constantly being fed, it's constantly going to be inflamed. Okay, so for example, after you eat a meal, it takes about 6 hours again to get back into a fasted state. So most people are very, very rarely ever in a true fasted state because a lot of people will eat at night, go to bed, and most people aren't sleeping enough. They get up to eat again, and it just repeats this cycle. So you have one of the main things I noticed, again, way back in 2014, I was taking hydrochloric acid, which we used to recommend to the clients. It's a main digestive enzyme, which gets depleted by stress. So I would take a pill, and there was I won't go into all the science behind that, but I was able to come off those pills very quickly within a week or two of just even doing the 16-8 fast. And I said, okay, there's a lot more to this than just a weight loss. So you're going to have improved digestion. One of the overlooked things, you're going to have a lot more time. So let's say you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner typically, and you cut out breakfast and lunch, and you're allotted an hour at those times. So just during the work week, you've now opened up 10 hours of time. Time is the most valuable thing you have. Can't make more of it, can't get it back. And then you have, okay, you don't have to stop and start and eat and all this stuff, stop work, and you're breaking momentum. So there's a whole bunch of other benefits as far as that goes, having more time. You don't have to do it really any food prep. And then you have autophagy. Okay, autophagy is when your body, and this only happens when you start getting into these longer fasts, not a 16-hour fast or even a 20-hour fast, but autophagy is when your body goes through in the absence of any food or calories, and starts eating up damaged parts of cells and recycling them or getting rid of them. Huge health benefits to that, but it only comes in the absence of calories. And then simplicity. Again, all this was designed, it sounds harder than it is, but it was designed to give you something that's simple. Your brain likes simple. The brain loves simple. The brain will form habits around simple. Complexity is the enemy of execution. You try to complicate this stuff and count your calories, macros, all that, it don't work. There's no point to it. That goes back to what I was talking about before. So with fasting, your basal metabolic rate can actually go up, can actually raise, because what's going on with those hormones I mentioned in mitochondria, which is the powerhouses of the cells of your body, function much better. So metabolism can actually go up upwards of 14% just from fasting alone. That's not really what we're looking at, but I try to plant that how this is a different road than traditional dieting. It's completely, you can't even compare these things. It's two different things. Okay. And hunger, your main hunger hormone, ghrelin, continues to go down over time. So when you do this, okay, so going back to food as a drug, let's say you do this and you're typically eating 3 meals a day. At those times when you're used to eating, when you first start this, you're going to get hunger signals. Okay, and that's where most people, I got to eat. No, you don't. All the body fat that you have is a fuel source. Okay, it's there to be used as fuel. But those hunger signals, so that's called entrainment patterns. So typically over 3 meals a day, you're going to get these 3 waves. The body says, okay, I want my food. I expect my food right now. Over time, those entrainment patterns are broken and hunger becomes pretty much a non-issue. I can tell you, even when I do my longer fasts, it's not even 2-3 minutes of hunger that I experience. So you make it through that and you're good. So hunger will continue to go down over time. But let me talk about, before I go over this slide, I've only got a few more. So food is a drug, guys. I want to reiterate that because it's super important. A drug, definition of a drug is anything that affects the internal biochemical and hormonal environment of your body. Food does that, okay? Food is the main drug that we consume on a daily basis. Your body fat is a food source. So reframing here within your brain. Let's say you only had 10 pounds of fat to lose, which is not a lot of fat, right, to lose when you put it in perspective. Now, each pound of fat that your body stores on itself has the energy of about 3,500 calories. So 10 pounds of fat would equal about 35,000 calories that you've got to burn through to lose that fat. You can, even if you were lean and you only had 10 pounds of fat to lose, you could literally go for a month without eating and you'd be perfectly fine. And I know that blows people's minds, but you could, right? You could once you get over it mentally. The record for fasting is 382 days. So a guy went over a year without eating anything, reversed all the disease he had, lost a couple hundred pounds. I'm going to go over what you should put in your water to kind of supplement this. It's just simple salt, a couple different salts, but keep that in mind. So when you do feel hunger, what you got to reframe that in your brain as, that's what fat loss feels like. Okay, that's what it feels like. There's going to be a little, especially initially, a little discomfort, right? This is not meant to be super easy. It's super simple. But fasting has a lot of benefits as well, as far as how it makes, I call building mental muscle. Okay, it's applying a low level stress on a consistent basis, which makes you a better human being. So one of the main things with metabolism, because people get so caught up on that, I just want you guys to realize that one of the main outputs of metabolism is usable energy by and for the body. So if food is your reliant energy source and you're constantly eating, that is the usable energy that your body is getting on a consistent basis. Where the body fat that you have is pretty much unlimited. Okay, it's unlimited. We want to make that the predominant fuel source for the body, not external food. You want to get the nutrients you need from the food. Okay, but the main energy that we want is from the body fat. And a lot of people say, well, I need more energy. I got to eat more. When you eat, you actually use a tremendous amount of energy in the digestive process. So your energy is actually going to go down. So your energy is going down trying to digest that meal. And you're probably eating on the run if that's the case, or eating in a stress state, which is a whole nother thing with it. But your energy is going to go down trying to digest that food. Insulin's going to go up, which is going to make you tired and sluggish. So eating for energy it doesn't make any sense when you actually look at the science. So the juice, this is what you are going to put in. Make sure nobody's trying to get into this group. This is what you are going to put in your water. So in a 32 to 40 ounce bottle, okay, and I'll post a replay of this too if you want to share it or watch it again. I'll put the slides up too. You're going to put pink sea salt or colored sea salt, low salt, which is your potassium. That's just a brand. You can look at other ones at the store. Just flip it over. It says potassium chloride should be the main thing in it, and baking soda. So the first two are your main electrolytes. Even if you weren't fasting, I would have you do this because most people are very deficient in sodium because that, again, that's another nutrition myth, what they've been told. Sodium is one of the most important things your body relies on, probably the most important thing your body internally needs on a consistent basis. Every cell in your body has what's called a sodium and potassium pump. It's constantly changing, internal, inside the cell and outside the cell, sodium and potassium. That is also, those pumps make up the biggest part of your metabolism. So if you're low in sodium, metabolism is going to be sluggish and energy is going to be lower than it should. So when people say, well, can I work out fasting like this? As long as you have sodium and adequate sodium, yes, you have added that. Any dip in physical performance when you're fasting is because these things are low. That's it. It's not because you're not getting enough food. And then the baking soda is another form of sodium. It makes your body more alkaline. Okay, so we're trying to reduce inflammation. So that's a good thing for that. And it's also very good for kidney function. Okay, kidney filtration. So we put these three things in. You do a quarter to a half a teaspoon, not tablespoon, teaspoon in your water. If you start doing this and you get diarrhea, it's nothing major. Just reduce the dose. Okay, water follows sodium. So that is one of the side effects you might get initially that will go away over time. And it shouldn't be anything extreme, but that's what you should be putting in your water. So here's the meal structure, then I'll go over questions. So I keep this real simple, okay? You're not counting, you're not weighing your food, none of that. You don't need to, okay? Fruit first at the meal. That is key. Fruit has a ton of micronutrients. That's what we're focusing on, not macronutrients, not carbs, protein, fat. Predominantly what you're going to be eating like this is carbohydrates, okay, which is a big relief to people as well. But fruit first, it's digested further down in the intestinal tract. So we want to get that through first, let the digestive process start working on that. But it's also has a lot of volume fruit, right? It's got a ton of water. So as soon as it passes through your stomach's got these stretch receptors. As soon as they're stretched, that starts signaling the brain too that, hey, I got stuff coming in. If your hunger or appetite was seeming like it was really high, it's going to start knocking that out right away. So I love doing fruit first, not after the meal first. That's key. A lot of people skip that and then they come, well, you're doing it. No, I'm not. Well, then you're not following the plan, right? So I'm telling you, this is the structure of the meal. The main meal, for example, I got a potato on. I got leftover potato from the other night. So my main meal is usually green veggies like broccoli, Brussels sprouts. I'll dip them in hummus. Make it taste good, guys. This should all taste good. I do a couple potatoes, and then I don't have animal flesh every night, but if I do, that's when I have it as well. So tonight I might have some fresh trout that my buddy caught me. But that's the main meal. And then for dessert, I do an overnight oats thing. So I'll have Dana post a recipe for that. And that's not what you're eating. That is much more important, is that you're getting these fasting times down. So the main meal, anything that grew from the ground is fair game. Okay, anything that grew from the ground is fair game. Let me see. I want to go over. I'll post in there, guys. Hold on. Let me see here. Let me go over questions. I'll post in there what the black version looks like of the Panda. Okay, that's the top level that I would have you guys do. So if you have a question, just unmute yourself and I'll be glad to answer that question. Or if questions come up, don't hesitate to just tag me in the Facebook group and ask me.
All right, super quick. I like Qdoba, and now that they have the Impossible meat, I've been kind of switching to that every now and then. But like, I'll get the rice and the beans. Should I just get either or both are fine?
I would get both of them. So when you're eating like this, eat until you're full, right? Mm-hmm. Eat until you're full. That's a key thing. So it's a feast. So you have the Panda, right? Part of it is it's fasting or feasting. So you have a feast. Eat until you're full. You'll know if you eat too much, right? And you cannot, especially if you like the black version, the main structure of that, after you do your longer fast, So we start the week out with the 48 if you choose to do that, but it's one meal a day. When you're doing that, you're not going to be able to overeat, but that's totally fine. If you can't finish a meal, you don't finish it.
Now, what about like say cheese? Because that's
You
gonna be
can
a
do
tough one
cheese.
for me.
You can do cheese. The main dairy I like to stay away from for people is pasteurized milk. Okay, so cheese has some good nutrients in there. So you're fine with having it. Again, I want you to enjoy what you're eating. That's one of the main things about this.
Now, I also know that like when you say the main meal, if it's from the ground, it's pretty much free game. Like what about like chicken, like lower, like not red meat per se, like chicken, turkey, things like that. Is that still good?
It's good. Yeah. I mean, that's almost secondary though. So think of your animal protein is secondary. It's not as important. Okay.
Okay.
As get the other stuff in first. And then if you want to have your animal protein, you have it as well. Okay. You have it there as the dish. But this goat flies in the face of what most people have been taught, right? Keep carbs low and have a lot of protein. Protein makes the body, especially animal meat, makes the body much more acidic. Okay. It leads to a lot more inflammation. So you don't need as much as you've been told. So yeah, you can have that stuff, but make sure that that's not the main focus. And try doing a night or two without having any animal meat. See how you feel, right?
I guess one other question: the juice, the drink.
Yeah.
It just seems like an awful lot of salt.
Grams of sodium a day. So it's going to be much used to it pretty quick. Like within a week or two, typically what people say with the juice is that, man, I can't drink regular water anymore. And as far as Andre is one of our clients. He's a cardiologist. We talk about this stuff all the time, and he concurs with as far as high blood pressure. Having too much sodium is pretty much it's a myth. There's very, very, very little for them to base that on. They've done studies where they give people 18,000 milligrams of sodium a day. Blood pressure moves a point or two. So what happens with sodium too? If sodium's too low, right, your heart rate's going to go up. Your heart has to work harder, right? Because it's the blood is almost too thin. So and that's much more dangerous having a chronically elevated heart rate versus having a point or a couple of points on your blood pressure go up. So it is more sodium. Sodium has so many benefits. I didn't have any of those slides in here, but as far as making you feel full, improving digestion, reducing inflammation, brain function, but performance. So start with a teaspoon and see how you do with that.
Okay. Oh, right. Overnight oats. Is that anything different than like say cracked oats, rolled oats, steel cut oats? Like, is that a specific oat or?
No, not really. So what I do with that, and you don't have to do that. It's something I look forward to, after the meal is you take those oats, I put them in a mason jar. Like I usually make them the morning of, put them in a mason jar, figure out how much you need, right? Like I do a lot of that. I'm a big eater, but I put them in there. I pour almond milk in there. I put sea salt. I put cinnamon and stevia, mix it up, put it in the fridge. So after dinner, it's ready. All I got to do is scrape it out into my bowl. I'll put some frozen berries with it, some nuts, some peanut butter if I want, if my appetite's there, stir it up, and then I eat it. So you could use any of those type of oats.
Okay. Now I know usually I try to stay away from processed, but like I like my Skippy peanut butter. Is that okay to use, or should I use a specific brand?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I like organic a little better, but eating like this, again, you're going to get away with a lot more as far as what you're putting in your body. So try, do the Skippy. If you get a chance to pick up some organic, then do that. But it's not going to be a make or break.
Okay. All right. Well, those are the main questions I had.
Cool. And I'm sure more will come up. So just keep, post them in the group if they do, or just shoot me a message.
All right. Sounds good.
Cool. What else we got, guys? Anybody else got a question? Anya?
So Kyle, this is my third fat shredder. So I'm like, I don't know why I keep signing up for this. It's like self-punishment. But I've actually, after the last one, have gotten to a pretty low body fat. So for me, this go around is really I'm gonna have to step up my game from a perspective of fasting and I guess muscle gain. Any recommendations, ideas you can throw my way to make sure I contribute appropriately?
What are you doing currently for fasting?
So I do one meal a day,
Okay.
Monday through Friday, and then I kind of do whatever I want over the weekend.
Okay.
And I work out 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Everything from I do the lifting, the small groups, obviously for 6 days a week. So I've been sticking to that.
The only thing I would add in for you then is consider doing at least through the fat shredder. And there's multiple reasons why I would recommend it, but the 48-hour fast to start the week. It sounds more intimidating than it is, but there's a lot of health benefits that you'll get doing that you're not going to get necessarily doing like a 1 meal a day.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be the only tweak I would make. So the way I do that, and I'll post the document in the group, but it would be basically, so what I recommend is Sundays, like, okay, like you do the all weekend off. Sundays, I tell people do whatever they want. Typically, but after you finish Sunday, you would continue your week, but Tuesday would be your first meal. So Monday is really the only day you're going without eating. That would be the only tweak I would make, or maybe you do that every other week, see how your measurements are, see how that's moving.
All right, I think I can do that.
Yeah, you could. And the reason I like people to do it on you is you build your confidence with it. So if you need it in the future, or you need to rely, you need to use that in your toolbox, you've done it before. It's not that hard. It sounds harder than it is.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome, Anya. What else we got, guys? Okay. If we don't have any more, guys, what I'll do is I'll post this recording later. So it'll be in the group. I'll put the document up there. I'll put the slides up there. So feel free to share it, ask questions, reach out to me privately if you need to. And yeah, we'll be starting on Monday. So looking